Hello again. In this video I want to talk a little bit about picking technique using one of these things here, just a regular flat pick, plectrum, whatever you want to call it. Now if you've been playing for any length of time, you're probably used to using one of these to make the strings sound. But there's a few things I want to talk about that are important for how you use the pick, so it'll help you get the most out of your playing. You might find if you're using the pick in certain ways it could hold you back and it's going to restrict some of the things you could do. So you might be thinking, oh well, I'm managing okay now, but if you look at your technique, you might be able to change it, refine it slightly, and it'll allow you to do more things and play more easily as you progress. First off, we know how to hold the pick between the fleshy part of the thumb and the side of the last joint on the index finger, and the natural way to use the pick is to play a downstroke against the string. So if you want to play a string, you just move the pick down against it. Now I've seen a lot of students who've played sort of without a teacher to keep an eye on them, and they just kind of extend that, and because the natural way to pick a string is going with a downstroke, is they use exclusively downstrokes. So they'll be playing like down, 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 down. And you know, with a bit of practice and that, you get some reasonable speed, reasonable accuracy just with downstrokes. But it's actually a lot harder to control your picking hand when you're just using downstrokes. It's much more efficient and comfortable as well, I think, to use alternate downstrokes and upstrokes. And it also means you can control the tempo a little bit, because you've got the natural sort of down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up sort of motion with the hand. So you can play up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And the act of speeding that up to play something really, really quick, it's just a case of controlling a very natural sort of cyclic motion, whereas with a down stroke exclusively, you're playing the stroke, then you're almost having to like reset yourself, and it's not as natural and as fluid a way to play. Now if you've been playing just with exclusively downstrokes for this sort of thing, moving to use alternate picking, alternate downstrokes and upstrokes might feel a bit weird at first, and you might think that's just not working, I want to just play with downstrokes. I'd suggest you persevere with it, because it will allow you a lot more freedom of movement and flexibility and accuracy and all those good things as you go forward. So stick with it. It's also probably worth talking a little bit about what part of your hand, what part of your body is moving when you're picking the strings. Okay, so there's sort of three places where movement can come from. First, it can come from around here, where you're holding the pick and the movement's actually coming from sort of just moving your finger and thumb subtly to move the pick around against the strings. Next place it can come from is from the wrist, that sort of motion. So here we're talking more about playing lead lines and in single notes rather than strumming big chords. Yeah, so you got motion coming from the finger and thumb, motion coming from the wrist. Also, you've got this, like your forearm could be moving as well. Now, at certain times you're going to be really digging in with certain notes or whatever, and you might have more exaggerated movement, but just generally you want to try and be as economical as possible with the amount of effort that you're putting in. So really you should be trying to get as much as you can just from your finger and thumb. The wrist gives you some extra movement, but really it should just be more about placing the pick, the finger and thumb holding the pick against the right string, rather than actually being part of the actual picking. The finger and thumb to control the pick, and then the wrist really just to position the hand where you need it to be on the neck. So if you think about it in terms of it's about efficiency, You know, it's about moving just your finger and thumb, a little bit of work, rather than moving your whole arm, which would be a lot of work. You know, the less effort that you put in, the more easy it is to control. You can potentially play a lot faster and more accurately. This is kind of a general rule for while you're playing lead lines, melodies and that, about using alternate picking. There's going to be times where you really want to dig in to emphasize certain notes, but that'll be the exception rather than the rule. Yeah, so most of that just playing with alternate picking, then really digging in with downstrokes. But so the more aggressive movement, more pronounced movement with the hand, and downstrokes is the exception rather than the rule. So that's alternate picking. There's another technique which is sometimes called economy picking or sweep picking. It's got a few different names. And what this is about using pick strokes in the same direction across adjacent strings, so playing across several strings with all downstrokes or all upstrokes. And where this works is where you've got one note per string. It works really well with arpeggios, and what you can then do potentially is combine it with alternate picking to turn the thing around. I'll show you the sort of thing I mean. For this example, we're going to play an E major 7 arpeggio. You can start with an E at the 14th fret on the D string, the little finger, and then sort of one finger per fret, one note per string, from E, G sharp, B, and D sharp. Also going to include the G sharp up here at the 16th fret on the E string, and the E at the 12th fret on the E string. And we can play this with all economy picking, going down across the top 4 strings. Then a bit of alternate picking as we go up, down, up, 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 back to the sweep picking. With some practice you can play some really smooth, fluid, fast stuff using economy picking. The real master of this is a guy called Frank Gambale, rock fusion guitarist, very good, and he did some absolutely fantastic sweep stuff, so he's worth checking out. And you can combine the techniques, so you don't have to use exclusively alternate picking, you don't have to use exclusively economy picking. It's whatever suits the notes that you're trying to play at any one point in time, so you can combine them. Another technique you might hear about is something called hybrid picking. And what hybrid picking is where you use the pick and your sort of remaining fingers in combination. Now, it's not something I do a whole lot of. If you listen to country players, they tend to do this quite a lot. Where I tend to use this, so I was using these two fingers, use my ring and my middle finger, say for pulling double stops. So I'm playing like a blues scale sort of run, using these two fingers here. In doing that, you can either use just the fleshy part of the fingers, gives you a slightly softer sound, or angling them and using the nail, and you get a slightly sharper sound. or you can hear the difference there. So you might not make hybrid picking like a massive part of your technique, but it's something to bear in mind that you, as well as using the pick, you have got some free fingers at your disposal that you can use for playing notes as well. Lastly, just a quick word about the type of pick that you use. The thickness of it has an effect on how the pick feels against the strings. The material it's made of, you know, how sharply you get the attack sound against the strings. And very importantly, the finish. If it's smooth or rough, affects how the pick glides off the strings and how the pick feels to use. Personally, I tend to play like a 1mm celluloid pick at the minute, or sometimes like a Lexan pick, maybe a little bit thicker. They've got quite a sharp attack, but they're very polished sort of finish, and they just feel very smooth and very natural against the strings, and that works well for me. So experiment with picks. I did another video. I'll put a link down there in the information section, where I do like to shoot out of different pick types, thicknesses, finishes, and so on. It's something to think about, because it's part of like the system of you and the guitar and the strings and your sound and your pick. You know how the guitar feels to play, and it will affect your technique. Okay, so something to think about. And like I say, if you're using a picking technique that isn't, you know, like the ones I've described, it might feel a bit weird to change your technique, but like I say, it's worth doing, because it'll set you up for being able to play more complex stuff, faster stuff than you're playing at the minute. So you know, it's worth persevering with. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in another video next time. Bye for now.